Friends, welcome to Newport, Vermont. We are here to drive the 2016 Volkswagen Passat. But while we work on the full episode, let's go over a tech review here. There are a couple of changes I want to go over. Yes, we're going to start with the engine, but there's some other stuff that we normally don't cover in these tech reviews, but we're going to do it today. About them engines, there are two that are on offer. There's a 4-cylinder and there's a 6-cylinder. This is the 1.8 turbo. This is 170 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque. Then if you go to the V6, it's 280 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. But what I find interesting here is if you do this engine, this is a Volkswagen with a 6-speed torque converter automatic. You have to go to the V6 to get the DSG with the 2 clutches. Now we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And you know, I get a lot of email, tweets, Facebook comments about what do I think about the Dieselgate situation. Number one, there is no diesel on offer, at least yet, here in the US of this new car. Number two, and this is really the headline here, at least for me, we don't know what we don't know. Now, I will say we know the technical issue, we know what the cause of the issue was, and I gotta say, I know you guys know I'm a New Yorker, and I'm not saying this because I'm a New Yorker, but the New York Times put out this great infographic of what actually transpired, actually how the system was changed to pass the test. So I would highly suggest pulling up that infographic to see actually what was going on, so you do know what the whole issue was about. Now, we're in one of those situations where we have to unpack the issue. So you've got different municipalities around the world that's looking at Volkswagen in different ways. So, for example, a couple of states have just filed suit against Volkswagen. The EPA is still investigating Volkswagen. A number of European municipalities are looking into Volkswagen. But again, we don't know what we don't know, and that's what's happening. So all of these different municipalities are trying to unpack it as well. So really, you and I need to spend some time and kind of step back and look at, okay, well, number one, how is Volkswagen reacting to it? Like, for example, they just released this website where you could actually put in your VIN number to determine if your car was one of the cars that was affected. So, I mean, I gotta take my hat off to Volkswagen that they're cooperating about the whole thing. It is an unusual situation to have transpired in the first place. I think that's the most honest way I could put this. Like, I run a business, and it's a very small business, but I run a business, and if someone were to come to me with a situation like this, even a small group of people, my question in my mind would be, well, do you really think you could get away with that? And I think the people who are now running Volkswagen are looking at it like probably the same way, and that's why they are being so forthcoming on it. So really, you and I need to spend some time and step back and look at the situation and say, okay, what information is coming at me at this point? And it's like any problem solving. Don't necessarily jump at inflammatory statements. What I would highly suggest doing is active listening. Listen to what people are not telling you as opposed to what they are telling you. So now with that, let's press on back to the 2016 Passat, and let's go over to technology, which to me, I think this is one of the bigger tech changes here in the car. So technology in cars is great and all, but I feel pretty strongly that over the past couple of years, really over the past couple of months it feels like, that technology in cars has taken on a new meaning, and that meaning is not so much the control of the vehicle, but how you interact with the car. Like just in this past week, I have driven 2 cars with both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This obviously being one of them. And that's really one of the big technical pieces I wanted to point out to you guys. Yeah, there's changes to the trim on the interior. There's some other technical bits that they offer on this car. But this is a huge change for Volkswagen now that they're offering both Android Auto as well as Apple CarPlay. And think about this, Volkswagen, if we're really being honest, they were kind of at like the bottom of the pack in terms of connectivity of your device into the car. The Bluetooth was great, but just the overall connectivity, it didn't work seamlessly. Now, they've kind of jumped to like the top of the pack by offering both new types of devices. And really think about this. This is a huge shift in thinking for a car manufacturer, because think about how many years you and I have been subjected to car manufacturers thinking that they can come up with a better UX than the folks in Cupertino or the folks in Mountain View. Now, most car manufacturers have said, you know what? these guys, they obviously have a knack at doing UX. Perhaps instead of beating them, we can join them. So now this car will actually do more. And think about how this is going to change not so much some fancy app, but how it changes your daily routine. Like, for example, either one of these things, you can roll down the road in this car, or really any car equipped with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, hit a button and say, I want to listen to Rihanna S&M. I want to listen to Saint Bose Younger. Whatever song, you can like test it. And now it's like a virtual jukebox. It's not why this whole platform or ecosystem was invented, but think about the implications of bringing this entire ecosystem, which, let me remind you, was only invented in, or really was introduced in 2008. This, you think about back to 2006, you were still using a Treo or a BlackBerry. Now only, what is it? 9 years, you have two totally different ecosystems that have an economy built on top of each, and now your daily routine in a car is different. That's the technology different here, not so much the details of blind spot monitoring system that is now nudging you via torque. Do you see what I mean here? Do you see the difference that this makes in not just the Volkswagen, but the entire Volkswagen group, or really the 5 large car manufacturers? I don't think Morgan has introduced either one of these, and I don't expect them to do anytime soon because, frankly, you don't buy a car like a Morgan for this. Anyway, I digress. So I want to leave you guys with a question. So these devices are great, but we still have this issue now with Volkswagen in terms of reputation management. They're going through a crisis right now and saying, hey, we screwed up, and they're definitely taking ownership of it, but this is not necessarily the first one that's happened. So GM, what did they have? The ignition switch. Toyota had an issue with the floor mats. And then remember way back in the day when Audi had an issue with the unintended acceleration. Now, I think I just read Audi has 55 consecutive months of sales growth. So think about the difference, or how cyclical the nature is, even with a PR disaster like this. So my question to you is this: what is more? What is a bigger PR disaster? What is an issue that do you think is bigger? This current one, Dieselgate, the ignition switch with General Motors, or the recent issue with Toyota? Let me know in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with 2 things. Number 1, we're going to come to you with a full episode from stunning Newport, Vermont. And number 2, I am very proud to announce we have our very own mobile app. We've been working on it for the past year with the fine folks at OpenPath Products, who not only are great car guys, but they happen to have kind of invented the mobile internet, but I digress. You can download it for free from Apple iTunes or Android Google Play, and not only will it work on your iOS device or your Android device, it is one of the first apps, like just after Spotify, to work with Android Auto. You will find out why we did that in the full episode. So we would love it if you would download that app and come and see us via your mobile phone. And until the full episode from stunning Newport, Vermont, bis später.